The storm came without warning. Dark clouds covered the pale orange sky of the colony world Alaris 9. Wind howled through the metal towers like an angry machine. Dust and sharp pieces of frozen sand hit the side of Daniel Arlen's old habitat dome. He had lived in that small place for 6 years. The storm did not scare him anymore. He was used to it, just like he was used to the silence inside the dome. Daniel Arlen was a widower. Once he had a wife and a small son. They died during the Great Dome collapse many years ago. Since then, he lived alone on the edge of the colony, fixing machines no one else wanted to touch. He was an engineer, not famous, not rich, but good with wires, metal, and stubborn old machines. The dome around him hummed softly. Outside, the world was cold, empty, and dangerous, but inside it was quiet. That was how Daniel liked it. He sat at his work table holding a broken air filter. It was heavy in his hands. He ran his fingers over the cracks and thought about how easy it was to break things, and how hard it was to fix them. Just like people. Just like himself. Then the radio crackled. At first, Daniel thought it was the storm, but then a small voice broke through the static. "Help, please." Someone. Daniel froze. No one ever called him on the emergency band. He leaned closer. "This is Daniel Arlen. Who is this?" "Repeat, who is this?" Leora, the voice whispered. "I'm outside the perimeter. They are trying to take me away. Please, help me." Daniel stood up quickly. His hands shook a little. Outside the perimeter? That was dangerous. The colony patrol did not protect that area. There were deep snow pits, metal ruins, and storm winds strong enough to push a truck over. He looked at the small screen on the radio. The signal was weak. It came from somewhere near the old transport road, 10 kilometers away. "You shouldn't be out there," Daniel said. "It's a death zone." "I know," she replied. Her voice broke. "Please, don't let them take me." Daniel had not heard someone speak like that in years, and full of fear and hope at the same time. He felt something heavy in his chest. He remembered the night his wife and son died. He had not been able to save them, but maybe this time he could save someone. He grabbed his heavy coat, goggles, and gloves. He pulled on his boots and strapped on his oxygen tank. His dome doors hissed open with a long, tired sound. Cold air rushed in. The wind almost pushed him back inside. But Daniel locked the door behind him and walked toward his old hover hauler. The hauler was a large metal vehicle, ugly but strong. He had built it himself from scrap. The engine coughed when he started it, but it worked. It always did. "Hold on, Leora," Daniel whispered. "I'm coming." The journey through the storm was not easy. The wind blew hard, covering the windshield with dust and frost. Daniel kept his eyes on the dim radar. Every few seconds, the radio gave a faint sound. The signal got stronger as he moved forward. The road outside the perimeter was full of broken metal and empty towers. Long ago, this area had been a mining zone. Now it was abandoned. People said it was cursed. Daniel didn't believe in curses. He believed in storms, machines, and bad choices. At last, he saw a light. A weak, flickering blue beacon. It came from a small emergency pack half buried in the snow. Beside it lay a young woman in a torn jacket, shaking from the cold. Daniel stopped the hauler and ran toward her. "Leora?" he shouted over the wind. She looked up. Her face was pale, her hair covered in frost. She nodded weakly. "You came..." Daniel lifted her gently. She was light, too light. He carried her into the hauler and wrapped a thermal blanket around her shoulders. He turned the heater on full power. "Why are you out here?" Daniel asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "They want to send me away," she whispered. Her voice was small but strong. "My parents, the council, they want to send me to the outer mines. I didn't choose that. I don't want that life." Daniel glanced at her. "Outer mines? That's a one-way trip," she nodded. "I ran away, but the patrol was close. So I came here." Daniel did not ask more questions. He could see the truth in her eyes. She was young, maybe 19, but her eyes were full of the same tiredness he saw in older workers. A tiredness that came from living under someone else's rules. "Rest," Daniel said. "We'll talk later." When they reached his dome, the storm was even worse. Daniel helped Leora inside. The warm air made her shiver more, but slowly, color returned to her face. Daniel gave her hot water and some bread. She sat near the heater, wrapped in his old blanket like a lost bird finding a nest. "Thank you," she said quietly. Daniel nodded. "You're safe here." But if your parents are council members, they will send people after you. I know, she said. Her hands clenched the blanket. But I'd rather be hunted than live their life. Daniel sat down across from her. He studied her carefully. Her clothes were of good quality, the kind only council families could afford. But her hands had scratches and small burns. She had worked with machines. That surprised him. You're not just some rich girl, Daniel said. She smiled a little. No, I used to sneak into the repair docks. I love machines. I always wanted to be an engineer, not a council puppet. Daniel's heart softened. He saw a younger version of himself in her. Someone who wanted to choose their own path. Someone who didn't belong to the cold system outside, but outside things were already moving. Deep in the colony city, in a tall silver tower, two people sat in a bright control room. Leora's father stared at the blank screen in front of him. Find her, he ordered the enforcer captain. She cannot be out there alone. She left the perimeter during the storm, the captain said. Our drones are searching, but the storm makes it difficult. I don't care, the father snapped. Bring her back. The mother stood silently behind him, her hands tight around a cup of tea. She did not speak, but her eyes were cold. They had plans for their daughter, plans that did not include running away. Inside Daniel's dome, the radio flashed red. A warning signal. Daniel moved quickly to the console. Perimeter scan, he whispered. Leora watched him. What's wrong? Drones, Daniel said. They're searching for you. 2, maybe 3. Coming from the south. Her face went pale. They found me. Daniel looked at her. She was scared, but she didn't cry. She sat straight, her hands shaking only a little. She had courage. That mattered. You have 2 choices, Daniel said slowly. I can give you my old rover. You can run, or you can stay and we face them together. Leora looked at him. If I run alone, they will catch me. Daniel nodded. Yes, she took a deep breath. Then we fight, Daniel almost smiled. Good answer. He moved fast. He shut down the main power to hide the dome's heat signature. He activated old decoy emitters outside. They made false energy spikes in the snow. The drones would think those were human tracks. Leora followed him, helping where she could. She understood machines quickly, faster than most. Daniel was surprised by her focus. She didn't freeze in fear. She worked, just like an engineer. The drones arrived after 15 minutes. Their red lights moved slowly over the snow. Daniel and Leora watched through a small camera feed. One drone fired a scanner beam at a decoy. The beam lit up the night like a blue knife. Then, it moved on. They're not sure where you are, Daniel whispered. That's good. But one drone came closer to the dome. Too close. Daniel picked up his old signal jammer, a box of wires and blinking lights. This thing hasn't failed me yet, he said. He pressed the switch. The jammer screamed softly. The drone froze in midair, its lights flickering. Then it dropped into the snow like a rock. Leora gasped. You shut it down, Daniel shrugged. Old trick. Works better than shooting. The other drones turned away. They had lost the signal. After a few long minutes, their red lights disappeared into the storm. Inside the dome, Daniel finally let out a breath. Leora leaned against the wall, shaking but smiling. You saved me, she said. Daniel shook his head. No, you helped. You're smarter than you think. She looked at him with bright, determined eyes. I don't want to go back. I want to be free. I want to choose my own life. Daniel stared into the heater flames. Her words echoed something he had once believed. Long ago, before the world had taken everything from him. You might have a chance, he said quietly, but not alone. You'll need help, Leora straightened. Then we fight together. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something he thought was gone, a spark of purpose. A reason to keep going. Outside, the storm roared. Inside, 2 people, one broken by the past, one running from her future, began to build something new. Not a perfect plan, but the start of a small rebellion, and sometimes that is enough to change everything. The night after the drones came, the storm began to calm. The sky above the colony turned dark blue and the sharp wind softened to a cold whisper. The snow still covered the metal roads outside Daniel's dome, but for the first time in many hours, silence returned. Daniel Arlen sat at his old work table, his hands resting on the warm metal surface. Leora sat across from him, still wrapped in the blanket he had given her. She was no longer shivering. She was thinking. He could see it in her eyes, a storm of her own, quiet but fierce. "They will come again," Daniel said. His voice was calm but serious. "The drones were only the start. Your parents won't stop until they find you." "I know," Leora answered softly. "They never stop when they want something." "You could leave," Daniel said. "Take the rover, hide in the mountain zones. Maybe they won't find you." She looked at him sharply. "And live my whole life hiding? No, I want to be free, Daniel. I don't want to run away. I want to fight." Daniel studied her for a long moment. He saw no fear in her eyes now, only a quiet strength. She was young, but her courage reminded him of the person he used to be long ago, before life had broken him piece by piece. "You can't fight them alone," Daniel said. "Then don't let me be alone," she said simply. Daniel leaned back in his chair. Those words sank into him like sunlight after a long winter. He had spent years telling himself he was done with the world, that there was nothing left to fight for. But maybe he had been wrong. The plan by morning, they began working. Daniel cleared the old workshop that had been silent for years. The walls were lined with machine parts, broken engines, and rusted tools. Dust floated through the air like soft smoke. Leora tied her hair back and walked around the workshop like she had always belonged there. She picked up tools and handed them to Daniel without being asked. She helped clean wires, fix small engines, and reconnect old systems. Her hands moved fast, her eyes sharp. Daniel showed her the transport maps he had stored in an old console. "These tunnels," he explained, pointing at a blinking line, "are old maintenance routes under the colony. If we can get there, we can move unseen." "Where do they lead?" she asked. "To the docks," he said. "There are still a few cargo ships out there. If we can reach one, we can escape beyond the colony's control." Leora stared at the map. "Not just us," she whispered. "Others," Daniel looked at her. "Others?" She nodded. "I'm not the only one they're sending away. There are many young people. They don't want to go to the outer mines. They want to build their own lives. If we can send a message, they'll come." Daniel hesitated. He had only planned to help her escape. But this was different, bigger, riskier. "It will be dangerous," Daniel said. "I know," she replied. "But it's right." Daniel's heart beat faster. For years he had done nothing but survive. But now he felt something new, the pull of a purpose. "Then let's do it," he said. The signal Leora sat at the old comm station Daniel had built years ago. Her fingers moved carefully over the buttons. Daniel gave her the frequency used by the underground resistance. He had not contacted them in a long time, but he still remembered their signal. "This will work," Leora said with quiet certainty. Her voice went through the cold airwaves, reaching far corners of the colony. "To anyone who hears this is Leora. I'm not going to the outer mines. I'm leaving this place and I won't be the last. If you want freedom, come to the old maintenance tunnels by the east wall at midnight. This is our chance." Her voice was steady. "Brave." Daniel felt proud just listening. Within minutes, small replies came in. Faint at first, then stronger. Dozens of voices. Young men and women, all with the same hope. "We'll come. We've waited for this." "Freedom." Daniel looked at Leora. "You just started something," he said softly. She smiled. "Good." The council's anger inside the tall silver tower in the city. Leora's father stared at the flashing red screen. He had heard the broadcast. The council room filled with angry voices. "She's calling others. She's starting a rebellion. She must be stopped immediately." The father's face turned pale with rage. "Send the enforcer ships. Lock the tunnels. Shut down the east wall gates." But the storm had damaged many systems. The colony grid was weak. Their control wasn't as strong as they believed. "She won't get away," he said. "She's just a child," but he was wrong. She wasn't a child anymore. The underground movement. By the time midnight came, the snow had stopped. The colony was quiet, but something moved beneath the surface. One by one, young people arrived at the maintenance tunnel entrance. Some carried bags. Some carried tools. None carried fear. They had lived under the council's shadow their whole lives, but tonight they chose something else. Daniel stood near the gate with his hauler. Leora checked every device twice. Her hands didn't shake anymore. "How many?" Daniel asked. 35, she said. "More are still coming," Daniel nodded. It was more than he expected, much more. He felt a small spark of hope. He pressed a button on the control panel. The old tunnel gate creaked open slowly. Warm, dusty air blew out. "Follow close," Daniel told them. "If we're lucky, we'll reach the docks in 1 hour." Leora climbed onto the hauler next to him. "We'll make it," she said firmly. The chase. Halfway through the tunnels, the alarm began to ring. A red light flashed on the ceiling. The council had found them. "They're closing the north exits," Daniel said, watching the radar. "We need to move faster." The hauler roared forward. Young people ran behind it, pushing carts and carrying supplies. Leora watched the scanner carefully. "2 enforcer drones ahead," she said. "We need a distraction." Daniel smiled for the first time in a long time. "I have one." He opened a hidden compartment and pulled out a small box with wires, an old pulse jammer. He handed it to Leora. "Think you can use it?" She nodded. "Yes." When the drones appeared, their red lights cutting through the dark tunnel, Leora pressed the button. A sharp pulse filled the air. The drones froze mid-air, their lights flickered, and they crashed to the ground with a loud metallic bang. The crowd behind them cheered softly. Daniel felt his chest grow warm. She had done it. She had become more than someone needing rescue. She was leading now. The tunnels opened into the east docks, a huge metal field filled with old ships and cargo containers. Most of the ships were broken or sealed, but Daniel knew one of them still worked. The Starlight Runner, an old cargo ship, had been abandoned years ago. Daniel had repaired its engines quietly during his lonely nights. He never thought he'd use it. Until now, Leora ran beside him. "Can it fly?" Daniel smiled. "I built it." "Of course it can." The group rushed toward the ship. But just as Daniel opened the ramp, loud engines roared above. "Enforcer ships. They found us," someone whispered. Red lights flashed through the snow. Voices shouted from speakers. "This is the council. Stand down. Return to your homes." No one moved. Not a single person stepped back. Daniel climbed into the pilot seat. Leora sat beside him at the co-pilot station. Her hands flew over the control panel. She was quick, almost faster than him. Together they brought the old ship to life. The engines rumbled like thunder. Lights blinked across the deck. The last stand outside, enforcer soldiers lined up. But they didn't shoot. The council didn't want to harm their own youth. They wanted control. A voice came through the radio. It was Leora's father, cold and commanding. "Leora, come home. This is your last chance. You can't escape." Leora took the microphone. Her voice was calm. "I'm not coming back. None of us are. You can keep your walls and your rules. We're choosing our own future." "Leora," his voice cracked for the first time. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I do," she said. "And that's why I'm doing it." Daniel watched her, pride filling his chest. She was braver than anyone he had met. She pressed the button and cut the line. The escape. The Starlight Runner lifted slowly off the ground, shaking a little but strong. The enforcer ships hovered nearby, unsure whether to fire. Daniel pushed the throttle forward. The ship rose higher, breaking through the clouds of the colony night. Enforcer ships followed, but the Starlight Runner was faster. Daniel knew the secret gaps in the colony's defense grid, old maintenance routes he had used long ago. He steered the ship sharply, dodging the pursuing crafts. Leora managed the engines, making them burn brighter. The stars appeared ahead, wide, endless, beautiful. The enforcer ships fell behind. The resistance fleet, hidden in the asteroid belt, picked up their signal. Their ships turned on bright lights like a welcome sign in the darkness. "We made it," Leora whispered. Daniel looked at her. "No," he said with a small smile. "You made it." A new dawn, the Starlight Runner flew into the open sky, followed by 35 young people who had chosen their own path. Behind them, the colony shrank smaller and smaller. Daniel stood in the cockpit, his hands steady on the controls. For years he had lived alone with nothing but silence. But now the ship was full of voices, and hopeful voices. Strong voices. Leora stood beside him, watching the stars. "Where will we go?" she asked. "Anywhere we want," Daniel said. For the first time in years, Daniel felt alive again. Not broken. Not lost, just human. And far behind them, in the city they had left behind, a storm of change was already beginning.